In 2018, Jurassic World unleashed the Indoraptor upon our nightmares. A lab-grown monster, a creature of pure fiction. But what if I told you that nature beat Hollywood to it by millions of years? What if I told you there was a real a predator, armed with knives, 4 fingers, a body built for speed, and a reign of terror that lasted for almost 84 million years? These weren't movie monsters. These were the Our story begins in Argentina. During the late 1990s, paleontologists were digging in the sun-baked earth when they found something extraordinary. A massive blade-like claw, nearly 12 inches long. They assumed it was a toe claw from a giant Dromaeosaur, a bigger cousin of Velociraptor. The name seemed obvious. Megaraptor, the giant thief. But there was a huge mistake. As more fossils emerged, a shocking truth was revealed. This killer claw didn't belong on a foot. It came from a hand. Imagine holding out your hand, and instead of fingers, you have 3-foot-long arms, ending in razor-sharp blades. That was the reality of America. And it wasn't just one giant hook. They had 2 enormous, scythe-like claws on their first 2 fingers, with even the 3rd finger tipped with a smaller blade. These arms weren't just for show. They were powered by thick muscles and incredibly robust bones, giving them a slashing strength few predators could match. A single, well-aimed swipe could disembowel prey. A firm grip could impale a victim, holding them helpless. It was nature's perfect combination of a sword and a spear. But the horror didn't stop at their hands. A look inside their mouths reveals an even darker story. Different species of Megaraptor evolved different dental arsenals. Some, like their distant Tyrannosaur cousins, had chisel-like teeth for crushing bone. Others sported sharp fangs for piercing flesh. A few even had serrated, blade-like teeth, almost like a shark's. While their bite force wasn't as bone-shattering as a T-Rex, it didn't need to be. Their arms delivered the killing blow. The teeth were just for finishing the job. Among all these terrifying predators, one stands out as the apex of its kind. Its name is Mape, a word that means the shadow of death in the local mythology of Patagonia. And it earned that name. Stretching over 33 feet long, Mape was the largest Megaraptor ever discovered. Its claws could have been up to 15 inches long, longer than a chef's knife. Its skeleton tells a story of speed, agility, and lethal precision. This wasn't just another dinosaur. This was a nightmare given flesh and bone. You might think a predator this large would be slow and clumsy, like a walking tank. But that's where the story gets even more terrifying. Megaraptors had hollow bones, filled with air pockets, much like modern birds. This evolutionary trick made them astonishingly light for their size. So light, in fact, that paleontologists compare their build to that of a cheetah. Imagine a creature as long as a bus, but with the explosive speed of a sprinting lion. There was no outrunning it. Their long, slender legs were built for a runner's stride, and their flexible arms were perfectly designed for slashing at prey on the move. They weren't lumbering giants. They were swift, agile hunters. But these creatures weren't just a threat to the herbivores they shared their world with. They were a threat to each other. One fossilized Megaraptor skull was found with puncture marks that perfectly matched the teeth of another Megaraptor. The wound shows signs of infection, suggesting the animal died a slow, agonizing death from the injury. This tells us they were not only rivals but also cannibals. It was a world where monsters hunted other monsters. They also faced stiff competition. In South America, they lived in the shadow of the Carcharodontus colossal. Predators even larger than they were, built to take down the truly giant sauropods. But then, about 90 million years ago, the Carcharodontos went extinct. This power vacuum allowed the Megaraptors to rise. They filled the empty niche, growing bigger, stronger, and deadlier, becoming the undisputed apex predators of their environment. Their reign was truly astonishing. To put it in perspective, Tyrannosaurs dominated their ecosystems for about 16 million years, Spinosaurids for around 46 million. But they thrived for an incredible 84 million years. They spread across continents, from South America to Asia, and even to Australia. They stalked forests, river valleys, and coastlines, hunting everything from small, nimble dinosaurs to heavily armored herbivores. For tens of millions of years, They were the shadow of death that fell over the southern continents. Let's transport ourselves back to the Cretaceous. Picture yourself as a plant-eating hadrosaur, grazing peacefully in a fern-filled forest. The air is still. 2. Too still. Suddenly, a blur of movement in the trees. Before you can even turn to run, a searing pain rips across your side as claws tear through your flesh. It's not one strike, but a rapid, precise flurry of slashes. Your legs buckle. Before you can even process what's happening, you're lifted off the ground, impaled on those horrific claws, and dragged towards a mouth lined with jagged teeth. Death isn't quick. It's slow and agonizing. That was the terror of living alongside a man. But here is the strangest part of this entire story. We still do know exactly what they were. Their place on the dinosaur family tree remains one of paleontology's biggest mysteries. At first, they were classified as giant dromaeosaurs, like Velociraptor. Later, scientists suggested they were related to Allosaurus. Some recent studies even propose they might be an early branch of the Tyrannosaur family. They are, to this day, enigma killers we are still struggling to understand. For 84 million years, it seemed nothing could stop them. Not climate change, not evolution, not their rivals. But 66 million years ago, their time ran out. A 10-kilometer-wide asteroid struck the Earth, unleashing a global cataclysm. Wildfires raged, the ground shook, and a thick cloud of dust plunged the world into a nuclear winter. The age of dinosaurs came to a fiery and abrupt end, and with it, the long, bloody reign of the megaraptors was finally over. In a way, though, their lethal design lives on. The birds we see today are the direct descendants of theropod dinosaurs. They still possess claws, speed, and the predatory instincts that are echoes of the monsters that once ruled the Earth. Hollywood gave us the Indoraptor as a fictional movie monster, but nature, in its infinite and terrifying creativity, gave us something far more real and far more horrifying. Creatures that slashed with knives for fingers, ran with the speed of shadows, and dominated their world for longer than almost any other predator in history. They weren't just giant raptors. They were the real Indoraptors. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this journey into the prehistoric world fascinating, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the monsters of our planet-esque past. See you next time.